y'all? Welcome back to another episode of Pretty Suited Reactions. I am your host, Lauren A. And we're back for another review of an anticipated artist that we've all been waiting to hear from. Now, if you know, you know. Cardi B, she came out with her second album after like 8 years this past weekend. And we are excited to hear it. And I'm not going to lie, I had doubts. You know, I'm a huge Cardi B fan. I've been a fan like most of you guys since Love and Hip Hop. Like, she was a star on that show. She was a huge personality, and we just loved her. She just did not care, and she was herself the whole time. So we fell in love with her. She rose to the top when it came to her first single with Bodak Yellow, and then it was all up from there. Like, no pun intended. It was all up from there. So her first album did absolutely amazing. We saw her win a Grammys off of that album. It was a huge success. And since then, we were, kind of figure out what she's going to do. I know you've heard of the term sophomore slump, and that's a term for a reason, because a lot of times artists, they do very well the first time, and then when that second album comes around, things change. They don't have the same inspiration and the same kind of fervor that they had when the first album. Because, you're hungry. You're trying to pay bills. You're trying to get on. You're trying to be successful. And so sometimes that sophomore album, you kind of shift gears. Maybe you don't keep that same sound. Maybe you try to do something different. We don't know. And so it's always a toss-up whether that second album is going to be good or not. And Cardi B was one of the cases where we feel like, okay, what is going to be her second act? What is this going to even sound like? And after about 8 years and 4 babies later, because, now she's pregnant, congratulations. She is having another baby, so she's on her 4th kid. So we definitely just were like, okay, it's a wrap. She's not even going to come back. This is not even going to happen. She's just trolling us all. But she actually came out with this second album this past Friday. And I'm not going to lie to you, I wasn't in a rush. I told you, I love Cardi B. I wasn't in a rush to hear what it sounds like or what it sounded like, partially because I just didn't want to be disappointed. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels this way, but I did not feel like I wanted to rush to hear it. Not because I wanted to hear what everybody else had to say about it first, but I just was unsure of, how it was going to sound. And I just would hate it if I hated it. And then, now I'm like, oh, that was but nothing. But anyways, I will say this. Yesterday, I said, Lauren, just go ahead and listen to it. I gave it a full run through in the car because if you know, that's how I like to hear music initially. Just because, the woofers and the bass and you could control the treble and all the things. It's just a little bit easier when you're in the vehicle. However, instead of just, listen to it on your phone and it's really half knocked, my headphones is a little warped, the wires coming out, it just don't sound as good as it does in the car. So I listen to it in the car, and I'm going to break down some of my likes and my dislikes about this album. Am I the drama? That is the question at hand. Am I the drama? And honestly, for the past 8 years, you have been the drama, Cardi. Just across the board. This is no question. You have been the drama. And so I thought that was a properly titled album. If anybody in the rap game is the drama, Cardi B is definitely that. Again, she definitely does not hold back in who she is, and she's always kept that same brand. Always. So shout out to her for that. So she starts this album out with a song called Dead. Now, I'm already skeptical because the song is called Dead and it features Summer Walker. She already has, some depression and anxiety issues. I just didn't know where this was going. So I finally heard it. And I was just like, when the song started coming on, it was giving me Meek Mill vibes. It was, that ever since Meek Mill came out with that Dreams and Nightmares, that kind of like slow walk and then like a ramp up and then like a climax type of song, those have just been the quintessential intro songs since that song came out. And I was expecting, she did the same thing with the last album. And so I feel like uh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So she started off with Dead, and it had that same kind of like anthem anticipation kind of build up. And her whole point of that song was give me my props. I think this whole album is really kind of like a means for her to, pop her stuff and to tell everyone, hey, I know I've been down. I know I haven't been putting out, an album for the past 8 years, but don't count me out because I'm still that girl. And that's kind of been the theme for this whole project. And she did not disappoint on this one because it really gave that energy. It really gave that energy of regardless of what girl comes up, I'm still going to be that girl. And she threw some shots on this one, which we're going to talk about shots because she definitely threw a few throughout this whole project. But she started off with some shots on this one, just basically saying that, she's tired of people counting her out. She's tired of people saying, okay, because she has kids, can't put out good music. And that could be the case for some women, where they just like, hey, I'm focused on my family. This rap stuff, this singing stuff comes second. It is what it is. And so I think that it was kind of even to hype herself up because honestly, if you want to be honest, I feel, and now this is just me, I feel that she may have been a little bit afraid or just hesitant is a better word. She was a little hesitant to come out with another album. And I just think that just is so much pressure. Like, everybody was counting for her to just, be on an arm of another dude and just kind of like take advantage of the popularity of her name, and she's into fashion and all the things. They weren't expecting her to actually put out more music, a consistent body of work. So she popped her stuff on that first one. I love that intro to this album. Then it kind of rolls along. The first, I would say, third of this album is really build up. I'm going to pop my noise, just the whole first third of the album. I particularly think the first third of the album is the best part of this album. And I know that's the case for most albums. They try to put all the good stuff in the front. But I think the way this is sequenced, I feel like the first third is good. So on Hello, that sounds like old Bodak Yellow Cardi. Hello sounds like a Cardi mixtape song. And so I was with that. And as soon as I heard it, I said, oh, this is giving stripper Cardi. Like, because we all know her roots, some of her roots come from the strip club. And she did not disappoint because honestly, like if that is your niche and you know how to get that going, know how to get the club going, know how to get the dancers dancing, she can do that. And so I felt like that particular song was definitely one of those strip club anthems. The only thing I have an issue with the first few songs of this album, and honestly the whole thing, I would say my only small critique of this is the fact that when Cardi B raps, she has her own style. She has her own kind of flow. She knows how to like, insert herself and her personality into her music. But one thing it kind of bothers me a little bit is that it sounds like she's reading her raps while she's rapping it. Like, instead of it just being like, I know I wrote this, and so it's coming off the top of the dome with, all the conviction and all the things like that. You don't really hear that when Cardi raps. Like, you could tell that, and she's not, opposed to this, so she's not ashamed of this either. She has writers, I think Partisan Fontaine is one of them, and just a host of other writers. And so you can tell that she had writers and she was reading what the writers wrote and then kind of was like going off of that. And again, it's not bad. It's not super duper noticeable, but it's something that I noticed because it really just sounds like she's in the studio, like and then she's like reading, and while she's reading, she's, rapping, and it's just it's a little bit of a disconnection is a better word for that. But either way, Hello is a jam. Hello is the one for me. One of my favorites. Magnet is another one. I think Magnet was like an extension of Hello. I think that she had a few more verses left, and she just was like, let's just make another song, and she made it another song. The beat on both Hello and Magnet is fire. Okay, it's given very much Bronx, which again is a part of her personality. She is not afraid to tell people she's from the Bronx, and it's given that. It sounds like she threw some shots on Magnet. It's funny because after the first verse, I was like, okay, sounds like we in the Bronx. We getting ready to do our thing with the girls. We, going down the street. Maybe we got some beef with somebody. Maybe not. We just cute, whatever, Bronx girlies. But then the second verse. And we started hearing, hold on, wait. Did she just say, okay, fashion girly, okay. A man got a purse, okay. I would say it, but I'm not trying to get flagged. But I'm just saying, it sounds to me that she was talking about JT on this song. JT from City Girls. I know they had a back and forth in the past. I thought it was resolved. I hadn't heard nothing about it in some years now, but obviously not. I mean, Cardi has been literally making this album for a long time. So it just resurfaced, I guess. And so she talked major trash to JT on this song. I mean, disrespectful. Basically, one of the lines was like, Brenda's got a baby, her mom threw her in the trash type stuff. Like, I'm talking about disrespectful. This highly. And we all know JT from Miami, okay? So I don't know how this is going to end up, because I feel like, honestly, I'm not saying that, JT is, a fighter or anything like that. However, I just know this is not going to just go away. This is not just going to be something that just is breezed by, and JT is not going to address it. And JT is known to write her rhymes. So I don't think she's going to be fearful of going into the studio and responding to Cardi B. I just don't think so. I think JT, she's known to snap back on Instagram, on Twitter, and she gotta read on her too. So this is gonna be interesting, because one thing JT don't play about too is her man. And so when we see kind of this back and forth between JT and Cardi B, I just hope it stays on wax, because Cardi B, she's not too unfamiliar with altercations either. So she just got a case dismissed from an altercation that she just had in New York with her doctorate appointment. So it's just, let's just keep it on wax. But I doubt that JT's gonna just let that breeze by. But anyways, pick it up with Selena Gomez. I do appreciate Cardi B not only providing the club bangers and the songs that are kind of true to her audience and true to her brand, but she also throws in just a little bit of a pop crossover in there too. Cardi B is really good at just throwing in one of those jams where you can play this on maybe Latinx radio, you can play it on the pop radio, maybe you can play it on Jimmy Fallon, and then, in regular urban radio. She has the ability to have some range. And in this song, Pick It Up with Selena Gomez, I wasn't expecting Selena Gomez to even be featured on this song. So that her audience is brought into this conversation too, which is a smart move. Again, Cardi's not stupid. She's seen a lot. She's been in different rooms. She's worked with different people and artists, and she's not stupid. And so having this kind of crossover or this feature on this album was very, very smart move. And then she did, because she did the same thing with Bad Bunny and her last album with SZA. So she having those kind of like features where she's able to, cross over. I thought that was pretty cool. And the thing about it is, you know how sometimes when artists try to do that, when they try to have like a pop sound or a country feature or whatever case, and it doesn't even sound like them. That's not the case for Cardi. Cardi's features, her kind of popish type songs, it still sounds like Cardi B. It's still true to her sound. It's just kind of adjusted a little bit to help tailor the other artists too. So that's another thing that I think is very important, because you don't want, it to sound like you're trying to be pop or you're trying to be a genre that you're not. And so she does a really good job of picking those songs and those features to where it still sounds like a Cardi B record. Now, Imaginary Players and the other song that she had, she did put a few songs on here that we've already heard. I think that's the thing these days where, you had those just mega hits that didn't necessarily land on an album. And they put them on a newer album, and it's like, okay, well, the song is already, double platinum. And it's like, it's double platinum because you had a song on there from 2 years ago that was really, really big. And so that automatically increased the sales, and it's attributed to that album. And so is that a cheat code? I don't know. You let me know. I feel like it's a cheat code. I feel like you can say that, okay, I sold 250,000 the first week, because it's still my song. I don't care where it goes. It's still my song. However, a true kind of like first week for an album is usually with songs that were never before released. And in this case, she had like Imaginary Player, she had Outside, she had Up, and she had like WAP. Like she just had pretty much all the songs that were pretty big during COVID. They landed on this album, and so it's like automatic. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be diamond when the first week sales come out. I'm pretty sure it's gonna say diamond because it's just all of the streams and record sales from those other songs. So I literally glanced over those. I didn't even bother to even turn those on because I've heard them before. But speaking of Imaginary Players, the samples on this album, I can tell you, I highly doubt that they were cheap. These aren't cheap samples, okay? You sampling Jay-Z, and you sampling the song with Lizzo where she has that 1980 sample. You're sampling Janet Jackson. Like, these aren't cheap samples. She flipped them. She made them her own. And they sounded pretty good. Imaginary Players is, of course, a classic Jay-Z record. And she kept the same elements. And it sounded like it's just a girl version of what he did in that song. And so I liked it. It was pretty cool. I mean, it's not something that I would regularly go back to, but I felt like she needed kind of like one of those flossy, mellow beats, but still popping her stuff. Like she needed one of those. And I think Imaginary Players did that. Songs like Bodega Baddie, I skipped. I mean, it's cool if you're in the summertime in New York and, the bodega and the chick selling fruit on the corner. Like it gives that summertime New York vibe, but it's getting ready to be fall, so I probably won't revisit that one. Safe with Kalani, I thought was cute. I thought Safe was cute. They just released a video and they had the little TLC silk robes on, and Kaylani's killing right now. Let me say that Kaylani is killing all of her features right now. She's been on with K1. She's been with people covering her stuff. Brandy just covered Folded. Like, it's just, Kaylani's that girl. She has been that girl for a while, and I'm glad that she's still that girl. She makes really good music, and so for her to be a feature on here too, again, not cheap, right? And so, but that song was very cute. And it's safe, I think, too. The topic of the song itself, I thought was pretty nice because, like I said, the first third of this album, I feel like was Cardi popping her stuff. The second third of this album is definitely giving Offset the tea, my new man. I'm letting go of my old man. That was definitely, because it was a lot of tracks on this album. I honestly believe that maybe this album could have done without a couple of these songs. But again, you're talking about almost 8 years of you just having records. So it's kind of, I'm pretty sure it was hard to really just narrow it down to 13 songs. But she had about a good, 20 some songs on this album. And it's like, girl, I love a good 13 track album. 13 to 15. That's all you need. But anyway, um, I feel like that song "Safe" kind of goes along with the rest of the songs, like "Man of Your Word" and "What's Going On," where you are telling me, "Hey, I got a new man." The old man, he was cool. The old man, he did his thing. We had fun together. We had multiple children together, but he was a dog, and it was toxic, very toxic. And I do appreciate her at least taking some accountability, because we know Cardi can be a handful. And I'm pretty sure her and Offset together was definitely a tornado every time they had an argument. And so, good or bad, she understands that this is no longer a thing. And I got a new guy. He seems to be treating her right. I heard that he has other children being born at the same time as her. But I feel like, Cardi's already addressed that, and she's just like, we all in this together. We'll figure it out. So if she don't care, I don't care. But I feel like, I appreciated her at least taking accountability, because, these men say that we don't take accountability. And I don't agree with that, okay? Like, don't do us like that, okay? Anyways, so she took full accountability on that song, of things that she could have did better, and hope that he finds something better for himself that's not her, and that's just beautiful. Because hopefully they can end amicably. Okay, there's children involved. But yeah, what's going on is that 1980 sample or 1990 sample featuring Lizzo. And on that record, I just gotta mention, okay, that part where she says that he wasn't grabbing her butt no more and she knew something was wrong. Why is that always an indicator? When a guy is not, doing the touchy feely initiating type stuff that he normally does, that's usually an indicator that something's going on. So keep your eyes on that, ladies. That seems to be a consistent theme, you know. But yeah, overall, like I said, it's pretty petty. There's a Principal and On My Back, where she has those Janet samples. The album, I would say, in totality, was a solid effort by her to put out a really good sophomore album. All gossip aside, all toxic things aside, all, just foolishness aside, I think Cardi B is a great entertainer. She's great at what she does. She has a very solid and large niche of an audience and fan base that's very loyal to her. And so, they were gonna go listen to it anyway. But this album is good. I think anybody who says anything otherwise is just a hater and just doesn't like Cardi B for who she is. Now, is that something that you're gonna bump every day? Do you think that it's Grammy worthy? Do you think that it's top 5 greatest rappers of all time? That's subjective, okay? Come on. I don't think that anybody would say she's the greatest rapper, but that's not her goal. And she says that's not her goal. Her goal is to be entertaining. Her goal is to put out good music for the people who like that type of music. And, she's a fun and good time. So I feel like that was portrayed in this particular album. She did throw a few shots, and we're gonna see how these shots go. The way she talked about Bia, on what song was that? It was Pretty and Petty. The way she talked about Bia, I don't even know where that even stemmed from. What is the beef? Did I miss something that that happened between Cardi B and Bia that I'm confused. So let me know in the comment section like what I missed. I may have to go back and do some research, but she talked about being crazy, from her hygiene to her album sales to, you know, her being promiscuous. She talked about being like a dog. So it must have been something big. But yeah, this was a solid project. I'll give it maybe like a good, just because I'm a Foxy and I'm a Foxy, Eve, Nikki type of fan, so where I really enjoy lyricism. But again, I'm not looking at it through a lyricism lens. So for this particular project and what it's made for, I'll give it a solid 7.5. I'll give it a solid 7.5. And that's just because, again, it does what it's supposed to do. And you know, she's really, really good at being her. Okay. So yeah, go check it out. It's called Am I the Drama? And Lord Jesus, it is full of drama. Okay. So you answered your question, Cardi. But anyways, until next time, guys, thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will talk to y'all later. Y'all be good. Bye bye.